بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's جواهر القرآن والدر. The Jews of We continue reading from Surah Al-Imran, and we have reached verse 92. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون وما تنفقوا من شيء فإن الله به عليم. You will never achieve righteousness until you donate some of what you cherish, and whatever you give is certainly well known to Allah. You will not achieve righteousness. Some said that really it's about paradise. But still, giving charity, spending for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does change the character. It's a mindset also. There are the givers and the takers. One should raise a generation of givers. There will be always, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alam, takers, and it's as I said, it's a mentality. And Imam Ghazali says that really without people taking, there will be we cannot fulfill the pillar of zakah, the almsgiving, which is essentially it's a complex picture about that which is zakatable. But the simplest thing for most people probably will be the cash money, gold, silver, but also the paper money, if you will, fiat. 2.5% on the zakatable amount after you have kept this much for a whole lunar year. And if you ask the question, why a lunar year and not a solar year, a lunar year will be in the best interest of the needy, of the poor, because in about 35 years they will have one additional year compared to the solar years, about 10-11 days earlier if you talk about the lunar year. Those who are, of course, you have zakah when you talk about grain, when you harvest grain, and it's due on the day you have harvested. But the zakah for that kind of harvest is 10% without any extra effort like irrigation, if it's not irrigated. Some scholars would say that there is no, and I think Imam Ghazali says this in the book on zakah, that there is no zakah in fruits and cotton. And I know that some Muslim scholars have a different point of view, and it stems from the interest of the needy, of the poor, and also that we don't talk about having one fruit tree, or when it's in the millions, then it's in the interest uh, of the needy, of the poor. And of course, we have eight types of recipients, and the eight types are. It doesn't mean that they will always exist at the same time. Some of them obviously do not exist. Inshallah, they don't exist. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم. The poor, those who are in abject poverty versus those who might have enough for a day or two, or with clothing, with shelter, with what have you. But there are those who are in absolutely abject poverty. If they are not given, they might go to bed hungry. Imam Al-Ghazali says, I mean, this is during the time of Imam Al-Ghazali, says that there are two types that do not exist. He said المؤلفة قلوبهم, he said العاملون عليها. The المؤلفة قلوبهم, the way Imam Ghazali described it, is notable people who become Muslim or in the verge of becoming Muslim, and this is to kind of easing their transition. It's a challenge for both. In general, when we talk about people converting, they face a new tough reality in general, because their families might not necessarily boycott them. I know a student who thought of converting, reverting to Islam, if you will, and she was worried about her university fees not being paid if her family knows that she became Muslim. And there is one type, المكاتبون في الرقاب, those slaves at the time who would pay their masters a sum of money that they agree upon as a contract. And the Prophet ﷺ asked the companions to help one slave at one point to plant a certain number of trees in exchange for his freedom. So the Prophet ﷺ asked the community in Medina to pitch in, not pay money, but at that time simply to help him by planting these trees. A collaboration. That was a wonderful. In fact, لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون. In one case, Umar al-Khattab set a woman, free, because that was something that he cherished, that he loved. Of the eight, if you have five of them that still exist in town, then you would distribute your zakah to 5 shares. If only 4 of them exist in town, then you distribute your zakah to 4 of them. Strangers who are they find themselves without any resources. It could be that uh, they could lose their money, their trade. They could be tricked by people. Uh, Young people who travel, and they might find people waiting for them unwittingly at airports, and they take away their money. They leave them practically with nothing. That will be the wayfarer who needs help to go back home. Yes. Now, not only you have if there's still need in the society at large, after everyone gives the zakah, then I think it's possible for the governor, for the emir, for the ruler to it could be encourage people to give more money, or if they don't, probably he has the right to ask for more to cover all these the needs of the people. So the idea is to give enough to the needy, and it's not about giving enough for a meal and they go back to you. One of the things that I have read a long time ago is that needy women, like widows or who have children, they will be given two houses, one of the houses to live in, and the other to rent it out, a source of income. She has small children and no one to take care of her. I remember a lady asking Roger Garudi at the time. This is in the around 1994. It was the King Faisal Hall at the International Islamic University in Malaysia, and she said that if there's inheritance and her brother is rich and she is poor, how does he divide inheritance? And rahimahullah, he was not a faqih, he was a French intellectual. He said he would give her effectively more than her share in out of the inheritance. Little did he know that, rahimahullah, that the responsibility of her brother does not stop there. He has the direct responsibility to provide for her if, as she said, he's rich and she is poor. And like every other ibadah, it's the intention, and one has to have the intention that it is the zakah in certain zakah, as we said, for certain crops, grains. It's on the day of it should be given on the day it is harvested in sadaqat al-fitr, which is practically an obligation. This act of charity is obligatory for every Muslim, and it's due before Eid. But you have all the month of Ramadan to pay. So sometimes it is there's a certain time element that should be fulfilled. You can give zakah in advance, but you cannot certain types of zakah you cannot delay it. Imam Al-Ghazali says about um, zakah, and he says the statement itself um, is intriguing, because he said that the tawheed, simply lip service, or say باللسان, والتوحيد باللسان قليل الجدوى, that to confess the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as lip service is of little benefit, because one is tested with what one loves, and he says, and monies are beloved. The people love them, he said, because this is how they enjoy this life, and because of the money they find comfort in this world, and they do not want to die, though through death you ultimately meet the beloved. So their claim of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are tested, and they are tested by being asked to give up that which they love in this world, which is money. So this is the zakah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the money, and He rewards us. He rewards us for giving just that tiny bit as zakah. It's an amazing thing. But some people will be stingy. Some people يسألكموها فيحفكم تبخلوا. So some people will end up with a tight hand. They don't want to give, but there are those who will give, and lovingly. وَمَن يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. They are the successful people. They are people invited. They do pay. The Prophet ﷺ is known to be the most generous, and in Ramadan he would be he's compared ﷺ like the giving, like the wind left and left and right. He would not keep anything. He would not keep anything. In fact, when he passed away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his shield was kept as collateral against a loan that he took. He had he wished to have the material aspect in his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it would have been fulfilled. It would have been easy, but his heart was not really attached to this world. And one can speak volumes about this. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiyallahu anhu donated all his money. Umar al-Khattab donated half his money. Uthman bin Affan radhiyallahu anhu financed the campaign to Tabuk. Abu Talha al-Ansari radhiyallahu anhu, this he endowed the Bayraha, a well of water that the Prophet ﷺ drank from. So the companions, in fact, the indigenous people of Medina, who became known as the Ansar, because they supported the Muslim migrants from Mecca in ways that are really unprecedented in history, neither before nor after. It was about giving. It was about giving. Let me share with you some prophetic traditions about spending for the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that you will not spend expenditure with which you seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that you will be rewarded for it. Every done. He said that even that which you put in the mouth of your wife as an act of love, you say that you put a piece of fruit, whatever it is, in the mouth of your, that is charity for you. So it could be something very big, but could be something very, very small also. And that's a charity for you. And you can give money, but if it's really your will, then only up to 1/3, not more than that, because the Prophet ﷺ said that to leave your children with enough money for them, so that they will not ask people for money, is better than leaving them needy. This is if it's really an option, asking people. The sadaqah itself, when it is collected, it is taken from the rich and given to the poor. And the poor, faqir here, it's both al-miskin and al-faqir. This is why it is not lawful to give the sadaqah for someone who has enough. If someone who is really strong, healthy, who could really work, probably one should be assisted to find a job. There was such a case when the Prophet ﷺ, there was a companion who was in need, and in the language of today, they bought him a tool to cut wood, and to sell that wood in the market. And that's much better than simply giving charity, and then they'll come back to you every single month. I know a Zakah committee I know 2 Zakah committees in 2 different countries who help people to stand on their feet, like a micro, they just like a very small business, nothing fancy. And they could be helped to become street vendors, for example. For ladies, it could be a sewing machine. To become tailors, it could be small micro bakery, if you will, at home, something like that, to help them to stand on their feet. And also, it doesn't mean that you don't give them at all. Um, until they stand on their feet, of course, you need to help them. To give charity in private is much better than giving it in public, though really, if it's really for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there's no a problem with giving in public. One should really watch his or her, of course, intention, the state of the heart. The prophet and the prophet's household were prohibited from accepting charity, and this is very important for people to remember. One can charity. There's the zakah and there's the open. Any amount of charity that's different from zakah. Any charity, any act, even half a date. Date, we talk about palm trees, the fruit. That's not much. Not even one single date. Which that's in terms of weight. I don't know. Maybe it's just like. Could it be like 50 grams, 40 grams, whatever? So half a date, بشقي, like part of a date, بشقي تمرة. That's even if this is really what you have, and in order to save yourself on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grow this date not in the physical sense, okay, but in terms of as an act of charity, so that that date will end up like on the day of judgment you'll find like a mountain. Think about what they talk when they talk about these usury banks, when they talk about the interest, as they call it, it keeps growing. The charity grows, obviously, in a much better. It is halal, it is wholesome. If it's halal, if it's wholesome, ما تصدق أحد بصدقة من طيب ولا يقبل الله إلا الطيب. It has to be wholesome. It has to be from a good, legitimate source. You give that as a charity, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the merciful, will take it with his right hand, not that he has a left hand. This is as in the hadith, كلتا يدي يمين, but remember, بيد, بيدي, بأيد. If just think about nothing is like unto him subhanahu wa ta'ala. فتربو في كف الرحمن حتى تكون أعظم من الجبل كما يربي أحدكم فلوه أو فصيله. The way you raise a small animal to become big. It could be a small camel, for example. It is narrated, by the way, by Imam Muslim. And charity we'll end up, inshallah, with this with these couple of traditions, that the act of charity itself, will extinguish, like fire extinguisher, will extinguish sin the way water extinguishes fire. And in the hadith al-Qudsi, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses us directly, he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya ibn Adam, O son of Adam, spend, أنفق عليك, do spend, I will provide for you, أنفق عليك, narrated by Muslim. And it is, of course, confirmed in the Qur'an, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace, and of course will reward you much, much, much more than you spend. In the next reading, inshallah, we'll be reading verses 102 to 104. Until then, subhanakallah wa hamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.